Alright, hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Rob here with some Rick and Gun Reviews, and since we just put up our Batman the Animated Series, you know that Justice League is right around the corner, and today we're going to be talking about In Blackest Night, episodes 4 and 5, part 1 and 2 of this show. Full spoilers if you've not seen these episodes. I really like this one a lot. This one's got a lot of... it also features a story about Green Lantern, but he's kind of sidelined in this. He's on trial, so it's up to the other characters to show kind of, in a way, how their trust in the Justice League is, how their trust in their friends are, how they build the characterizations and show how they're coming together as a team to defend one of their own against a pretty crazy crime where he's being accused of killing 3 billion people on a planet, like a whole planet getting exploded from a mistake he made. And how GL basically is kind of just throwing himself at the mercy of the court. Like, not even that. I mean, he's accepting complete guilt. Because as far as he's concerned, he feels like it happened. And so that's our story until... it gets Blackest Night. We get the little speech at the end. This episode is directed by Butch Lukic. Man, how do you... Lukic. Lukic. And written by Stan Berkowitz. Sorry. This also has some pretty good voice talent with James Remar. If you don't know who James Remar is, he's been in basically everything. He's been in a lot of Quentin Tarantino lately, in both Django Unchained. He has also had a cameo in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But he's been in a ton of stuff. A ton. He's a great character actor. He's also no slouch on the voice acting aspects of his career either. He's also has Kurtwood Smith from that 70s show. I always sigh when I say that because I'm just not... I love him on that 70s show, but I'm not a big fan of that 70s show. I don't like laugh tracks. Anyway... Kurtwood Smith, I always associate with. I always go right back to the X-Files, season 3 episode called Grotesque. I think it's called Grotesque. But he was, RoboCop, and he was in RoboCop. He was RoboCop, but he's an amazing actor. I love him. I mean, the guy was in the show Patriot. He was also on the Perpetual Grace show that the guys... make the guys make I've had correspondence with the people who make that show, and Kurtwood Smith is on it, and I love him on those shows. Also, the late great Rene Auberjonois, or Auberjonois, man, again, names, man. He's a very French name. That's a very French name. He plays Kendra. He was on Benson and Star Trek. He plays Kanjar Ro, Gaius Zed, and one of the Guardians of Oa. He's like a triple threat in this episode. And Garrett Morris plays Al McGee, one of Jon Stewart's friends. And another character actor named Brian George, who was on The Expanse, I think, plays a character named Forian. So there's a lot of people in this that get only little bits to do, really. So a little bit of trivia. Oh yeah, and Dennis Haysbert. Can't forget Dennis Haysbert as Kilowog. So a little bit of trivia in this little tidbits is that when Green Lantern turns over his ring, like in normal DC canon, he would revert back to his normal clothes, but in this, he just stays in his uniform. It's a little bit weird, but I think they just wanted to show who he was. If you just had him standing in front of like this universal tribunal just looking like a guy, I think they needed the uniform to stay on so that it would be more recognizable, I guess, to the universe characters. It's the first time that Wonder Woman's referred to by name, even though she's not in this episode at all. There's a moment where Flash is stalling the court, and he does a Johnny Cochran impersonation where he says, "If the ring wasn't lit, you must acquit." And this also is basically a reference to Justice League issues number 140 and 141 that came out in March and April of 1977. But it wasn't Jon Stewart in the story that was on trial. At the time, it was Hal Jordan. So, let's get into this episode. proper, where yeah, there's this intergalactic tribunal, and the whole universe, basically, races from everywhere have to come together and put aside their differences to seek justice against this person who committed a crime so bad, so vast, that it made the whole universe basically go, we have to, like, do something about this person. And it's Green Lantern, and he's been accused of blowing up a whole planet by himself. When they get to the details, you kind of go, should this really be against him and maybe against his powers and the use of his powers? Things like that, just trying to blame the guy and not the power. I don't know, like, because it's just kind of a coincidence, like a really 1 in a million chance that this all happens. So they send these manhunters, these big robots, to go capture GL on Earth, who is back on Earth going through his old stomping grounds, his old neighborhood, kind of incognito, but he's pretty hard to miss. Also love the music in this scene. It's very, I'm not going to say like urban, I don't want to say it like that it is. It's just a very street, like, kind of like music. You have to see the episode to know what I'm talking about, but I thought it was a really interesting choice for a cartoon. Really, like, mellow, kind of like a little jazzy beat to it, but subtle, not hitting you over the head with it. And he kind of, he's seeing the people in the neighborhood. He stops a robbery. That somebody gets robbed, he stops them. Then he sees a kid playing basketball, and he tries like a long-range three-pointer, misses. And his old teacher and friend is there named Al, played by Garrett Morris. He's like, you used to be able to sink that shot. I'm like, man, he was shooting that shot from outside the court. That's a hard shot to make. That is like a one... Again, cartoon logic. Whatever. So, all of a sudden... Flash and Hawkgirl and Martian Manhunter are on the Watchtower. They see an incursion. There is a funny line where Flash is hitting on Hawkgirl, asking her if there's a Hawk boy. But Batman won't answer his calls. Wonder Woman's busy, and Superman's taking care of an earthquake. So they go to find out what these manhunters want, and it turns out that they're in GL's neighborhood to take him in. A fight ensues. It's a pretty cool fight. Again, the animation and the action sequences are always really done well here. There is kind of a funny part that made me think of Return of the Jedi when that stormtrooper hits the Ewok line and goes, ugh, right in the neck. Well, they kind of clothesline Flash in the same way. I thought it was funny, even though he gets hit pretty hard. But Supes arrives, but then, and the tide turns. They start getting it more in their favor, but then Green Lantern comes and stops the whole thing and just surrenders. Because he understands what this means, not that he knows what they're accusing him of, but that this is serious. People are coming here. They're going to start more, if the longer that we fight, the worse this is going to get. I just got to go with them. Problem is, he doesn't really tell them. He doesn't tell the rest of the JL. I'm trying to hyphenate things. Not working out. So he goes. And when he gets there, he finds out what he's accused of. And he looks up at the stars. And Jean is reaching out psychically, reading across the fucking universe, mind you, reading GL's mind. And he says that he sees these stars and it gives them a location. So it makes you think that he was looking at the stars to give them a location to come find him. And so they go. But when they get there, he's like, oh God, no. And so you're like, why did he send coordinates if he didn't want them there? Now that's the cool part about this, because what he's looking at in the sky wasn't to send a signal. It was looking at the place where that planet was supposed to be, and his guilt and how he felt like that. And John picked up on that too. He just didn't understand the context, and he thought this was just, hey, come get me. This is where I am. Which I thought was a really interesting touch. They come there, though, and they get attacked immediately. Hawkgirl almost kills people that are in the ships that are coming after them. And I like that because she's still kind of getting used to how to do things with the Justice League. She's a warrior, a detective, and she's not used to holding back. And it's Soups who has to remind her, kind of like, "Hey, man, like back off. Like we're not didn't come here to kill anybody. We don't kill. We're the Justice League." So I like that again. It's a little bit of subtle characterization there. It just kind of comes by quick, and you just have to know that it's something that will stay with the character. Um, but they talk about what happened to John. This guy named Kanjiro comes. He's a criminal with information that they just immediately take because they read his mind, and it shows that he was being chased by John because he was a thief. He gets his engine ripped out, and when he goes to like realize that there's a whole bunch of ships there to fight him and protect Kanjaro, he fires his green beam. It bounces off the deflector shields of one of the ships, hits the planet in a lava flow. It just so happens to land in a lava flow, which triggers a chain of events that causes the whole planet to explode, and 3 billion lives are lost. It's like a 1 in a million shot, and also like how like the power, I guess, of the ring that he was using to blast a ship was powerful enough to reflect, ricochet, and hit the planet. Now, I don't completely understand GL's powers, but I guess his will makes the ring blast more powerful, and that was supposed to make sense. This is one of those times where I have to just go, okay, fine. But it's just like a 1 in a million chance where really to me it's more about the power. Like he wasn't thinking. I mean, I guess they'd say, why did you just fire at the ship if you didn't know it would even do anything? Why. So I guess I see some sort of point, but not fully thinking that it should be blamed. Like it should be more about regulating their powers, right? Or the power of the lantern, in a way. But John just like, I did it, I'm guilty. He doesn't even defend himself, which means that Flash has to. Now this also has a really funny, well, before we get to that, Soups and Martian Manhunter go to find proof that this didn't happen. They know GL, even his own friends are turning their back on him. The Green Lanterns are basically disgusted with him. You were the best of us and all that. And it's like, if he was the best of you, then why aren't you coming to his defense? Why are you just believing this happened? Just because, it shows kind of like public opinion and things like that, how that can affect a real court case here on Earth. And it does all the time. So it also shows who his friends are. So while they're off doing that, Hawkgirl meets the other Green Lanterns, has a throwdown with them with no powers, which is pretty funny. But also, prior to this, Flash is left alone to defend Green Lantern, which they don't have a real great relationship yet. And it's turned out that he's like, well, why don't you have lawyers here? Why are there no lawyers? They're like, we've gotten rid of our lawyer problem a long time ago. And it's like, okay, well, I'm his lawyer now. And it's like, okay, well, great, but if you lose, you die along with him. And they're like, see, this is how we got rid of the lawyers. So either all the lawyers died defending defendants, or enough lawyers died that nobody ever wanted to stand up for anybody in court. That's a really funny way to get rid of lawyers. It would never... I mean, if they were to actually institute that here, but the universe is a big place, and they just decided to go, you know what, we're not messing with this anymore. If you actually want to stand up for somebody, not a lot of habeas corpus or whatever in space anymore in this show. But GL, but Martian Manhunter and Superman, they go to this moon, and Superman's like, this is a great line too, this great couple of lines here. Soups is like, anything wrong with this picture here? When they're on the moon, and Martian Manhunter, who's always very introspective, and he's like, where do I start? The loss of human life, the echoes of our past. And he's like, no, man, literally, look, he's getting all kinds of philosophical and shit, and Superman's just like, no, literally, what's wrong with this where we're standing right now? This is a moon. It shouldn't be orbiting anything. It's literally got an orbit. Where is it? What is it orbiting? And Martian Manhunter's like, oh yeah. I thought that was really funny. Um, so they're all back at the trial, like saying, "What gives you the right to do this? The power of all this?" Well, finally, the guardians of Oa, right? They've been sitting on the sidelines, even talking about how they have to, even though they're great, they were happy about the diverse choices that they've made for Green Lanterns across the universe. They're like sacrifices have to be made, and that's one of the things with the Guardians of Oa. I think that have always been is that they're they sit on the sidelines and don't really act. They're the people who had the power, who control the power, to give out the power. But the power that they give, a lot they say, these Green Lanterns have autonomy. So if what one does, it's not really their responsibility in a way. They just kind of go by their gut on on who they pick or who the ring picks and all that. So, but they finally come sort of to the defense, and they go out there to talk about what their role in this whole thing. Meanwhile, Soups and Martian Manhunter do find this giant projector that's basically a giant hologram, and Kanjaro tries to stop them, but they capture him and they bring him to justice. And it turns out that the Manhunters that were created by the Oan Guardians, the Guardians of Oa, they made them. And they went rogue, and they decided they wanted the power to themselves. They felt like basically like slaves to the Guardians, and they went robot crazy. AI, robot crazy. There you go. And just another AI story, right? Or something like that, along those lines. And so they framed up GL to take the hit so that they could get the Guardians there. This is all distraction. It's a big story. To get the Guardians on at the trial so that there's nobody protecting Oa, so that they can go blast it and take the power of the Lantern for themselves. It's crazy where this starts and how this ends. So they find John Stewart guilty, and he's just ready to just take the consequences. He pulls this Tony Stark kind of Civil War attitude of like, we have to keep ourselves in check. If nobody's gonna hold us accountable, then what good are we? Like if we're a danger to the rest of the universe. But once Superman and everybody comes and shows the evidence, he immediately turns around, like flips a switch, and's like, "I didn't do this," and attacks Kanjaro. He gives it up. And it's one of the things I like about this is like, why did you do this? He's just like, money. Just plain. There was no like major dramatic pause or anything. He's just like, I did it for the money. I love that. And he just kind of looks at him like, all this just for some money. And so they have to go and defend the Guardians planet of Oa, while the lead Manhunter, played by James Remar, takes all the power of the Lantern for himself. And while it looks like, and it's a pretty simplistic ending if you think about it really, but it shows, I guess it's supposed to represent the power of John Stewart. Because how big his will must be to do what he does here, which is when the giant Manhunter gets all the power, he does the whole speech, brightest day and blackest night, that whole thing. He takes the energy with his ring. I don't know why I'm doing this. Yeah! I should get a GL ring. That would be pretty tight. I used to have a GL shirt. I don't know what happened to it. He absorbs all the energy from the Lantern into himself, showing how powerful John Stewart is. I mean, they even say at the end, you are the best of us. It shows how powerful John Stewart really is, and how powerful the Lantern power is too, and how GL in a lot of ways is like really a very powerful character, very, very, very powerful character. It just depends on who's writing it, what story they're wanting to tell. And at the end, he sees who his friends really are. And maybe that's one of the points of this episode, is to kind of break him off from the rest of the Lantern Corps, was that they didn't stand by him. These people he just met recently that came together with on Earth, they're the ones who came across the universe to protect him and defend him When these are the people that should know him, and these people don't, and they saved his life. And that, again, I think it's part of the story of solidifying the tightness of the Justice League itself, and how these guys are going to, becoming slowly this mighty team on Earth. And so that's in Blackest Night. It's a pretty good episode. I wish that there would have been. I wish this was a three-parter. I wish they were all three-parters if they're this like good and dense, because we could have gotten more with the Green Lantern Corps if they had. I wouldn't mind sitting around for another 20 minutes making more notes and talking about this. It would have been a longer video, but whatever. Because I really enjoy this, and I enjoy the cosmic side of things, especially seeing how they do it. And the writing was really good in this episode. It was really funny. Not everything made sense, but they're trying to jam in, a movie-sized story into like 40 minutes, if that. When you take out the intros and the previously ons and stuff. Think about that, man. These shows were doing previously ons before previously ons really were a thing. Maybe the X-Files was doing it. Maybe Buffy was doing it. That kind of thing. Anyway, if you like this review, please hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe. Hit the bell for all notifications. Yeah, share, please. I really want to grow the audience of this show. Not necessarily my channel. I just want more people to be able to watch these. Just like Batman the Animated Series. If you like Justice League the Animated Series and you know other people who do and are looking for content on it and they haven't seen any in a while and you like my perspective, please share this with other people. And if you're not a subscriber, hey, yeah, why not? Become a subscriber to the channel. We do a whole bunch of stuff. We're about to do Westworld Season 3 starting tonight. So you can find me on Twitter at reviews_gun. Otherwise, this is Rob at Smirking Gun Review saying we're going to be back next week with The Enemy Below, Part 1 and 2. And there's commentary on that one, so we'll have some extra stuff to talk about. So, have a great day. We'll see you next week. Bye.